Folks, this episode of the Redneck Country Podcast is brought to you by OutdoorFunctions.com. OutdoorFunctions.com is an online calendar-based system where you can go on, scroll month to month to month so that you ensure you don't miss any kind of outdoor function coming down the pipe. Anything from clinics to banquets to fundraisers to gun club events, whether it's practices or competitions, folks, they're all on there. Head on over to OutdoorFunctions.com and take a look. You can even sort by the type of event you want to look for. At this point in time, they have completely wiped their calendar due to COVID to ensure all the events that are posted there are truly happening, and therefore, folks, they need your help to rebuild it. For free, go on and hit the event submission button on the top right and be able to put your event in there to start to populate this calendar back up post-COVID so that we can all get back out and enjoy the outdoors together. So, folks, spread your wings, try some outdoor events, and please be sure to check out www.outdoorfunctions.com. Hey, folks, welcome to the Redneck Country Podcast. You are on with Todd and Bill. Bill, are you there, my man?
Yes, sir. It's another great night. I say it every time, but it's always a good night when we can get together and share a few stories and podcasts for everybody who's listening. So, yes, I'm here.
Right on. And I have had so much frickin' coffee today, and my 6-year-old made it, so I'm pretty certain as I drank it and it burned my throat, I am caffeined up and ready to rock.
It's going to be a good podcast. Yeah. I'm not sure if I can get a word in edgewise here tonight.
You are going to have to, if you need the control board, man, because you're going to have to hit the mute button.
Again, I'm the almost guy, so I almost got a word in tonight. We'll see.
and tonight, because Bill, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the Great White North, but Bill is back from the Greater White North. And so I want to, normally we start this out with, hey, Bill, how was your week? But we can't, because I want to make this whole friggin' podcast about that, because I was getting some pictures and I was getting some messages that were insane. So don't go there yet. I will say what I did this week, and then we'll go into it.
Let's hear it, bud. How was your week?
So, the reason I want to is because I'm semi pumped about it. I decided that I've been lending out one of my trap guns for years now, and so I got 3 that you would say. And if anybody's listened to our previous podcast about, I believe I titled it "What the Flip Kind of Shotgun Is That?" when we posted it up there. If anybody's listened to that, so we go into the differences. So I have 3 trap guns. I've never sold a trap gun. So I have my very first trap gun, which is on a Remington 1100 trap, which I bought off of an old timer trap shooter that was quitting as I was that age. I was getting into it. So it's really old. And, but it did the trick. It's awesome. 1100 trap. I couldn't sell it. It's my first trap gun. So then
have you cleaned it since you got it?
I have no comments. So I will tell you that, it's kind of been cleaned because I busted a firing pin in a shoot-off once, and the gentleman I was shooting off against, which I could say, we mentioned him in that podcast, Terry Jordan, he's a great guy, and I was proud to be shooting off against him, let me say that, but it broke on the line, I busted a firing pin, he took it over, took it apart, replaced the firing pin halfway through the shoot-off, and he actually was like, wow, this needs to be, so he sprayed it out on the spot and put it back together. We went back out. He beat me by a target in the shoot-off, and kudos. He deserved it after we're stopping to fix my gun, which was awesome. But so it did get cleaned.
Sportsmanship right there. Right?
It is. And so it did get cleaned at that time. And then, so after shooting for a while, I wanted a gun with adjustments on it. I wanted to be able to shoot higher, and I didn't want to have to bend my barrel like they did back in the day with over a tire or a vise or anything like that. So I went on the hunt and found my next shotgun, which was a BT99 Plus, which it had a shock in the stock, an adjustable comb, an adjustable rib, and all that jazz. I shot that for many years until I finally discussed with, got on board and got a Caesar Guarini. And so now I'm on my second Caesar Guarini, but that's what I shoot now. But I've never sold a trap. I shouldn't say that, because I did my first Caesar Guarini. I've passed that on and I got a new one, but I've never sold another one of my trap guns. I've always kept them. So now when I had a buddy start shooting years ago, and I had it, and he was a hunter, didn't have one, so I let him use it. And then Dad's buddy started shooting, and so I said, you know what? And actually that buddy, I sold it to him for $50 so that he could own it, and said there, now the only stipulation is you can't resell this. Whenever you quit shooting, it's yours. But when you stop shooting trap, or you get a new trap gun, sell it back to me for $50. And so he got a new trap gun. We've done that. So I got it back. I got it. And then Dad's buddy started shooting trap, and again, didn't have a trap gun. So I let him use that for a year, and now he's just bought his. So I just got that trap gun back. And I thought, you know what? My daughter is now to the age, she works at the gun club. She likes working. She doesn't like to shoot as much because she likes working and making money. And therefore, if she's shooting, she can't be working. So I've been wanting her to get out, but I got this gun now. I'm figuring I'm gonna fix it up, and so that maybe it'll coerce her to want to shoot a little bit more. But then my 6-year-old coming up, she'll be able to shoot it too at someday, and then I'm not gonna sell it. So having it nicely fixed up. So this week I actually decided to rip it down, take it apart. I sanded the stock all down, and I'm replacing the shock that's in it was from 1990. So if a BT99 Plus, this model was built in 1990. It's not the Plus that is built today. This one had the shock and the stock and all this jazz. Well, that shock, it was just a little too long for me, and I shot it anyway. And so now that my daughter, I'm hoping she's going to use it, I'm going to take that off and replace it with a recoil. And so I've got it all apart. So this week, adjustment. And make it a little bit shorter. And then I could shoot it too. I do like the way that balances. And with that recoil and the weight on the back end, for me, it'll make it a quick gun. But
you and your daughter probably could shoot the same like the pull, because you got little wee tiny arms, right?
Well played. And 13, what is it? I measured it because I measured it for this gun for getting a recoil at 13 and 3/4 inch length of pull.
Exact same as my wife's.
So no comment.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. But I like a short stock. I like to get up on. I like the control. So anyway, but yes, my daughter can shoot the same gun. So it will do a purpose. And I do like this gun. So if I get bored of my seat, I can go back and I can shoot it. And it is a quick gun. Like it's just the way that it's balanced. It moves fast. Yeah. So that being said, I have stripped it down and I've been applying true oil to it and then sanding it down, and then true oil in it and sanding it down, and true oil in it and sanding it down. And I thought, you know what? While I'm doing this, I might as well do my Caesar at the same time, because it's just a natural.
The Caesar apart.
So I did, and so now I'm doing the final coats on the Caesar as well. And I tell you what, that true oil, it is popping. I know it was a little bit of when you're taking an $8,500 or with that stock, because I've had some work done to it and stuff like that. I'm at $9,000, whatever you want to say, is invested in that gun, and you start sanding down the stock. It's a little nerve wracking, but screw it. It's only wood. So,
it'd break my heart if it went wrong. A buddy of mine, we were shooting at Toronto International.
No, don't you tell me any scary stories while I got this thing apart, Bill.
No,
you freaked me out.
It was a scary story for me, just how quickly this all happened. But we were shooting Toronto International, and he had either gained weight loss. I'm not sure what the situation was at the time, but his gun didn't fit him anymore. He was shooting an old Browning Satori and shot it for years and years and years, but he just got back into shooting, and he found the gun didn't fit him very well anymore. So he changed. He wanted to make a change, and I'm like, well, take it to the local gunsmith. He says, not a chance. He had that thing stripped down in about 4 minutes, had my chop saw out, put it on the chop saw, took it a half or quarter inch off the end of that, and my jaw hit the floor. How quickly and how easily he just said, no, I'll just put it on the saw and set it up to about this angle, because it changed. I was like, whoa, easy, but no. And before you knew it, whoomp, down. And I've to this day, I've kept that piece of wood in my garage as a reminder of, you know what, it's okay. Don't worry about it. It'll be okay.
It will be all right. That's so awesome. No, well, and I've seen guys do it, like bend the barrels over a freaking trailer hitch. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's not shooting high enough, and they don't have adjustable comb. Hey, the cranker, holy rip. Yeah, no, that's a little more than me. But this was just, I thought there's enough videos out there and stuff, and I knew enough of the stock is just a natural oil finish. So, and it's a nice piece of Turkish walnut. So it's not that big of a deal. I went and bought some quadruple aught steel wool and 400 grit sandpaper, and I knocked down some with a. I brought it to a kind of a rougher finish, and then I slapped on the true oil really, really thick, because I watched some YouTube videos, and then lathered it, made a lather, and that fills in the grain. And then you kind of wipe off that lather as you're wet sanding it, and you keep it nice and wet while you're doing it, and then let it sit for 24 hours, and then just start throwing thin layers on it. And with the steel wool, if you get little spots, because that true oil can get sticky quick, right, when you're putting it on there. So you got to make sure it's really thin, and you are going to get some buildup. So you just take the steel wool, knock down the little spots with buildup, and then just keep going. And
I know you've been pretty good with keeping things, you're not dropping it or anything over the years. But have you ever steamed out the dings and dents in the stock?
I'm not, and this BT99 has got a ding. Maybe I should give it a try and see. I'm watching enough videos; those come up right when you search.
And that's why I don't know how deep they are, but I was following a thread on Facebook, I think, about a guy who was refinishing his stock, and he said there's a little ding on it. What would you recommend? And I have heard about this in the past, but I've never tried it. But steaming the wood to bring that dent out. I just don't know.
They say to put like a hot cloth on it, and then I don't get it. And then you got to steam it with the hot cloth, and then you remove. And there's a whole process. You can watch YouTube videos for days on it. But Dad had his stock steamed, so he's got a Winchester Diamond Grade 101 unsingle. And there was a gentleman that bought both guns. He bought, instead of buying a combo where you have, the one action and then you get the double barrels and the single barrel, this gentleman bought the unsingle and then bought the double. So he's got two full guns. And take
a quick step back. I know this is probably a topic for next week's podcast.
Yes, it is. I'm getting a little deep now, but yeah.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, when I got into trap shooting, I had no idea what an unsingle was.
Oh, yeah. So, I'll touch on that, and then it'll kind of whet the appetite for next week then. But
this is just a taste of what we're going to get into.
Yeah, an unsingle is the action of the gun, the stock and up to the action with the lever where you open it up. It's a double gun, up, over, and under is what we're talking about. And so you have a top barrel and a bottom barrel. And in trap, in singles and the handicap events, you only shoot one target. You're only allowed one shot. So a single barrel is usually the gun you use. And so, therefore, they're pretty common now, because in trap, that target's always rising, and you don't want to block. The sooner you can see the target, the better. But you don't want to have to hold so low that you got to move so much to get it. So now an unsingle is they take it's a double action receiver, but they only put the bottom barrel on. And so you're only shooting the bottom barrel, and they fill the rest of the space where the top barrel would be with just rib. So it's a really, really, really high rib, which it was actually, if you held it beside a double barrel gun, it would be the same height as the rib, the second barrel and the rib on that barrel set. But because that top barrel's missing, that rib looks really, really, really high. And so, but it allows you to see through that rib, because that rib's not solid. So you could see the target a lot quicker, is the theory. Some guys like them, some guys don't, but that's what an unsingle is. And so Dad bought that. Yeah. No. But where I was going was Dad bought that gun unsingle because his broke. We were at a trap shoot, and I don't want to steal the story, but his broke, yada, yada, yada. And we'll bring him on next week, and he can tell that story, because I think that's a great one. And so he ended up getting this 101, but he only had the single. Well, now he wants to be able to shoot doubles, so he wants the double. And so he found out that the gentleman that had actually sold this unsingle to the person that Dad ended up buying it off of still had the matched double. So Winchester Diamond Grade 101. So he went and got it. Well, the problem was this gentleman, he didn't want it, so Dad bought it. Or he did want it, but Dad offered him enough. I don't know the story. Dad could share it, but he had it steamed, cast over, to fit him better. And so Dad had to take it to a woodworker, like an actual guy that knows what he's doing. And we weren't going to attempt this. And he's actually steamed it back over for Dad, and fit the stock back to Dad by steaming the wood. Instead of replacing the stock, building a whole new stock, they were able to steam that stock back and be a normal straight or and I don't know how straight. I just know they fitted it to fit Dad, and they actually steamed it, and that impressed me, because that's a solid chunk of lumber that you're steaming back over. But yeah, so I know it can be done. And I know it's a time-consuming process, but you're talking about just getting dings and dents out, and I've seen that.
Yeah, that's it.
And I might give that a try. I might. What the heck, right? What else we got to do in COVID?
That's it.
So hopefully that whets everybody's appetite for the next episode.
Yeah.
But so that's what I did. That's what I've been doing. I've been refinishing my stocks, and I think they're almost done. They're starting to look really good now. So after doing that lathering on them, and on the BT99, it's not like a super awesome piece of Turkish walnut. Like my Caesar has a pretty decent piece of wood on it, and so I've been putting it on, but it's starting to look really 3D and really come out. The more layers, thin layers of that true oil I'm putting on, it's really in the sunlight, like iridescent 3D look. It's friggin' wicked. I'm loving it. I love how it's starting to look. And the BT99 is not that lustrous of wood, but it's starting to come along too, the more layers. So now the problem is, where do you stop? And do you ever stop? Right. Or do you just, because it is just an oil finish, do you just keep on going? And what fueled me to do this to start with was my dad told me a story of my uncle, or my great uncle it would be, it was his uncle, that whenever he would go over and visit him, he'd be always sitting there oiling his gun stock and rubbing oil into his gun stock. And Dad said, I remember that piece of wood looked so beautiful, because every time I'd go over, that's what he would be doing, is rubbing oil into that gun stock. And so that kind of stuck with me, which is kind of what triggered me to start doing it. But yeah.
When you get bored and you got nothing to do, watching a movie or something, you got something to do now.
Yeah, got no competitions, and really it doesn't take that. I mean, you got to wait 2 hours between coats, and so it takes like maybe a minute and a half to put a really thin layer on, and then you got to set it aside. But your hands are sticky. I'm still wooling my fingers to get it off, because it gets so sticky after you leave it for like 30, 40 seconds, and no soap's taking that off. I'll tell you what. So I'm still wooling my fingers, but that does work. Quadruple lot steel wool.
So you didn't hit the club this weekend or sporting clays?
Oh, actually, we did. We went out sporting clay. I think we're going again this Sunday. So, but yeah, we did that as well, and we had a good time. There was me, my dad, and my dad's buddy Bill, and my buddy Trevor from the club. So the four of us went, and they actually had a pretty good turnout. And so we shot around a sporting clays. Had a bit of fun. It was a good time.
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna have to get down there one weekend and do that. It just sounds like way too much fun to pass up.
And that's it. Thank goodness there's no prizes and it's not registered, because I'm having way too much fun to make it a competition. I'm talking too much. I'm videoing. I'm chirping. I'm throwing weird targets at them just to tick them off.
You got the right squad of people that they got the personality that they know what they're up against with Todd Millard there. Right?
Well, Dad had me, so he has no options, and Dad's buddy, he has no options either, because he's driving with us, I guess, and my buddy, he didn't have to come. So
he had a choice.
Yeah, that's right. So, but yeah, no, it is. It's good. We have good time. Absolutely. And the guys behind us were pretty good. They were catching up. There was only 3 in their group, so they were catching up to us, and there was a bigger group in front of us that was kind of slowing us down just a touch. So they were catching up, and they seemed like they were good dudes as well. So it was a good time. Yeah, we were having a blast.
You get your shells all loaded up for tomorrow?
No, we are all out. And now I'm did the math on these reloads, and I'm not certain that we're going to continue to reload.
Really?
Well, I do like the load. I like the way it patterns. But there is such a good rebate on right now that if for 16 yards, close targets, like I shoot rocks at them, right? So you could shoot the cheap shells. And to me, why spend the extra money when you run hundreds with the cheap shells? Do you need to have these beautifully reloaded, nice patterned ones? Maybe, but it's a lot of money and a lot of time compared to, so we would save $10 a flat after I've done the math. And so for people that don't know, a flat is 10 boxes of shells. So you would save $10, so $1 a box of shells, cheaper to buy the cheaper shells. And so when you're shooting that many, that adds up. Right?
So for you to buy them, it's cheaper.
It's $10
than it is.
Well, wow. And that's not
and your time.
That's too, not right? There's no rebate on the cheap ones. So that's just on the cheap ones for singles. So now when you go into handicap, we're shooting further back, right? Long yardage, and so I want a faster load. I typically the ones I've been loading the stats, and I haven't chronographed since switching over to these, but everybody shoots this load that I've talked to. They come in around 1,250 feet per second. So you can't, when you get into that kind of speed and then the quality of shell, which I want Winchester AA silver bullets, the super handicaps. Those are 1250 feet per second. So those are typically $105 a flat. They have a $20 US dollar rebate per flat. Well, that now makes them $85, but you get 25. So, but it's really that $20 is in US. So really it brings them down to almost $80. And I believe our reloads or well, $85 in there. And I believe our reloads are a little bit more than that. So,
yeah.
And it's time consuming to do it.
Yeah, the time consuming side of it, and you know, for me, that's about what I'm paying for a flip shells and Challenger handicap. When I'm for 16 or my handicap, I don't change. But I used to play around with the different loads for different yardages, and I don't know if it really had that much of a difference on what I was doing because I'm not at your level of competition and shooting. That's
just a mindset. I disagree.
Yeah,
and not with that attitude, you're not.
Well, you get to the club once or twice, Mr. Thom, and you can figure out if you got a gun that still works or not.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I just when Cabela's has them on sale for a flat, and the handicap loads are there. I buy. What did I buy? 10 flats last time I was.
Yeah.
They were
my
on sale.
gosh. I want that. So, I want them, Bill. But yeah, we're going. Yeah. I believe we're going. So Dad and Bill did not go to one of the sporting clay shoots, so they still have more shells than I do, and so therefore I think I might have to buy a couple boxes for Thursday night. But on Friday, I believe we're making the trek to go and spend quite a bit of cash and come home with some. And I don't think it's going to be reloading supplies. I think it's going to be because the $10 you're going to save per flat will offset if the handicap loads, the Winchester loads, are more money. Will offset and shake it. And then why am I wasting my time reloading when you could have factory loaded AA super handicap, which is a pretty good shell, right? So to me, yeah, I think we're going to go that route after doing the math on the reloads. Now, not saying that I'm hoping the patterns are just as good. I do like my reloads. The patterns were awesome, but I'm going to give this a go.
It's a trade-off. Yeah, give it a shot. I mean, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, right now there's hardly any there is no competitions. It's all just fun shoots, so who cares? Now's the time to figure it out.
Good deal.
But yeah, so that all being said, on to tonight's. I am so pumped because you didn't have much signal up north at the cottage, but you had enough from time to time to make me jealous by sending some pretty wicked pics and messages first.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say what it was. I don't want to ruin or steal the thunder, but I will let you. I don't know where you want to start.
Well, I guess that's a good question. I can start with we had a good week. Yeah. So my wife's family has a cottage up near the French River, Grundy Lake Park, provincial park. So we were very, very fortunate to have a couple of days up there this year. My wife and kids left, and they spent 6 full days up at the cottage. And because of work commitments, I wasn't able to get up there till Friday. So I was living Bachelor Life from Tuesday to Friday morning, I guess. And that was when we talked about the perfect cup of coffee. And finally, I think I got that figured out. So.
Bachelor Life. So how much weight did you lose?
I lost 2 pounds. I did. I stepped on the scale and I lost 2 pounds.
Or how much did you gain? Because if it was me, I guess I'd be eating out a lot more.
No, my OCD. We had it all planned out before what I was going to eat on day 1, 2, and 3. And
did you really? Whoa!
I do.
Okay, I know this is the Bill Thom side of where we're going. But I gotta ask. I gotta drill in on this. You planned out with Candace, or did you do this on your own?
Oh no, we planned it out together. We went shopping beforehand to make sure I had in the house what I needed and wanted to eat for those 3 days.
Candace Thom is so kind and caring.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to make sure that I'm taken care of.
It's wow, dude. You got to keep her. I'm impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no question in my mind.
And I have to say that because I need a couple big favors.
Yeah, I know. But,
funny. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So you didn't get up there. So you planned your meals, which is awesome. So no, I want to drill in even more because I want to know, Bill Thom, what were your planned meals?
I was thinking about you. I did a 300 flip grilled cheese sandwich.
So you started it on Monday. That was your Thursday meal.
If you're flipping, you can't burn it. That's what I was told.
That's right. If it's in the air, it ain't burning. You're good to go.
Yeah. So I had grilled cheese sandwiches, and then podcast night I had a pizza, and then Thursday I had burgers on the grill, and Friday I was off to the cottage. So I got up first thing Friday morning. I fly model airplanes too, as kind of another, as if I don't have enough hobbies already. I got up early on Friday morning, and I went out to the flying field, and which is just our local soccer field, football field, and flew for 25 minutes there, and turned around and went home, packed up, and hit the road. So,
I didn't know. I knew you did. I didn't know you were that into it that it would take precedence on a Friday morning getting to a cottage where you can fish, and really you wanted to do it that bad. You got up and went out early to fly the planes.
Full disclosure, I had a conference call at 11 o'clock I couldn't miss. So
it was filler.
Yeah, it was filler. I can't sleep in early because I get up early for work anyway. So I was up, and I had batteries charged the night before for just in case I was going to get up and go. The conference call was at 11. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get on the road until 1, which didn't put me there till late. So, but anyways, yeah, I was able to hit the road 1 o'clock, like 1:00. I was on the road, and 2.5 hours later, I was sitting on the deck of the cottage, catching up with the family and hearing about their week. And so up to that point in time, and they had a pretty good go of things for the first couple of days. So I was glad to get there when I did, and enjoy a little bit of the weather.
Right on. So when you got there, family was all ready for you to get there. Did Hunter have the fishing holes already lined up, already found out, already knew where and what bait to throw?
Sounded like he didn't have a whole lot of success until I showed up. So they did catch a few. His uncle Dave, who was the owner of the cottage, and who was our host for I say host very generously, because they absolutely, everything is set up. I mean, we want for nothing when we're there. It's we don't have air conditioning or that kind of stuff, but who needs it? You're out swimming, you're boating, you're fishing, you're having a barbecue, you're just enjoying life with no cell phone reception. As soon as you get off Highway 69 and going east, there is zero cell phone reception. So there's not even the temptation when you're sitting at the cottage around the deck to pick up the phone and check Facebook or anything. There's nothing. So it was beautiful.
And you say you want for nothing. But you have no cell phone signal. So how is that? I don't understand what that feels like anymore.
Refreshing. Honestly, it's refreshing to know that you don't need to have it there and be checking things. But I kept the phone because it's got a camera on it for certain reasons, and I had it out. And sure enough, on Saturday morning, which is, I won't fast forward too fast, but Saturday morning is when I was able to shoot you the text messages and certain spots on the lake. I guess you're able to just get a few messages across, no pictures until Sunday when I was coming home. But Saturday we could at least get you a message to let you know how things were shaping up.
Yeah. And when I got that message, I instantly remembered that I had not added you as an administrator on the Facebook page for Redneck Country yet, as I was funneling all the posts. And I was like, the minute that this message came in, again, not still, I'm like, holy crap, I got to add Bill. He's got to post this.
But Saturday fishing was fun. But Friday night, when I got to Hunter, wanted to take me out right away because his uncle has got a little 12-foot tinny with a 9.9 on the back that Hunter has learned last year and again this year how to use.
That's awesome.
So I mean, proud son taking his dad to a fishing spot. I mean, the first spot was kind of a bust. We didn't take it, but yeah, I'm not out there honestly for the first little bit to catch fish. I want him to feel proud of the fact that he's able to take his dad to a spot that he's maybe scoped out for the first couple days that he was there, right? So he was pretty happy. So we went out to a spot and we fished there for about 20 minutes or so. Didn't catch anything. Maybe moved to another spot, another 20 minutes, didn't catch anything. And then he says, okay, well, I got another spot over here, which is not very far off the cottage. I mean, you could hear Candace and her aunt and uncle talking on the deck. That's how close to the cottage we were. But I mean, on a lake, you can hear things a long ways away. But all of a sudden, I'm throwing out my and I'm not sure if I want to tell you what I'm throwing out, but I think you're kind of going to push me to tell you.
And is that not what this podcast is all about?
Yeah, I guess. So
we need weight, color, size.
So I like to throw out worms. I like not real worms. I don't fish with real worms. Like a wacky rigged Senko with a number 2 red hook on it, and funny enough, the hook color seems to make a difference.
It's like a bleeding. It's kind of bleeding, right?
I can't put a firm explanation to it, but I tried weedless hooks that were a different color, and maybe it was a weedless barb on it. I don't know, but it just didn't hit it. But when you change the hook color to the red with the Senko worm, maybe it's mental in my mind or whatever. I fished it differently, but that fish had a small mouth, and he was just over 3. I think I sent you a picture of that one, and he hit that thing like a ton of bricks. Just wham! Hit that Senko. It hit the water. It was fishing in about 6 feet of water at that time of day, and I two little jerks across the bottom, and all of a sudden the rod tip went down and wham.
Were you along the bank? Were you in weeds?
No, this time I wasn't. There was some fallen trees that were there that they created some structure, but I wasn't fishing right in the structure. There was a drop off that went from about 3 feet to 6 feet, then 6 feet to the kind of a 8 to 12 foot channel where they go from the cottage out to the main body of water. And we were in that channel, and I was casting up closer to the 3 foot mark, and then coming back obviously to the deeper water, and I didn't get to 6 feet, I'd say, before that fish hit.
Okay, so he was probably just waiting down on the bottom, and it just come up and hammered it, right? So because when you now every other fishing podcast, I get to be dumb. Don't get to be. I am dumb because it's all the type of fishing. But this is, you're going to make me jealous because this is my wheelhouse. And this year, because of COVID, I don't think I'm going to get to go up north and do this bass fishing. So I'm going to live vicariously through you, Bill. But
sure,
so your rig, you said wacky worm. So you're taking this hook and you're putting it right in the middle of a 6-inch long worm, rubber worm.
Yeah, yes and no. On the Senko 6-inch, it's a pumpkin green with gold fleck on it. I think it's called baby bass, I think is the color of it. But anyways, I always put an O-ring right around the center of it, because for two reasons. One, because they're such a soft bait, it seems like it'll tear them in half. Every time you catch a fish, it tears it in half. Mm-hmm. So I go through a lot of worms that way, but so I used to, and then I started putting O-rings on them, and I go through half as many because they're not cheap, right? A bag of those is $10, right?
Yep.
So or more. I don't know what it is now.
And what sucks the worst is when you're out there and they're hammering them, and when you hook right through the worm, and those bass are ripping them off, and then you realize this is the bait. I just went through 10, and then I got no more. Oh,
that's right.
Oh, yeah, forget the price. That you'd pay $40 for a bag of 10 at that point, but you got nowhere to go get them. You're screwed, man. Like, yeah, I've been there, done that. You're hooking up and driving. Now let's go find a freaking store.
And there's not many up there, especially with COVID. There's a lot of things closed and not a lot going on. So we actually try to be as self-sufficient as possible, right?
So this worm. So now, was the hook weighted at all?
No weighted hooks. I mean, I use the weight of the rig with the worm, the O-ring, and the hook itself.
Because let me go. Yeah. So Todgent time, if I can interrupt.
Absolutely.
The caffeine, man. You knew it was coming. But so I have avoided this rig for years because I thought it looked so stinking stupid. I mean, you got all these cool looking lures and you got all that, like the tube jig that you can hook up weedless, and you could Carolina and Texas rig it and everything else. And like, that's, to me, that's work, right? Okay, I put the work in, so the fish are going to bite this. And I look at this stupid wacky worm rig and I go, you're just putting a freaking worm over a hook and leaving it. Like, it's not even weedless. You're not doing anything. You're not putting a bullet weight on it. You're doing nothing. You're just put it on there and throw it in the water. What? And so all the way until last year, I refused to use that type of rig. And so last year we go to the cottage where me and Dad just slay the pike and bass. I mean, it's insane. And my kids, and it doesn't matter where you go on this lake, we just crush it. And that's why I love going there. I mean, the cottage is literally plywood on cinder blocks. Do not care. It is amazing fishing. And so I thought, you know what? I was watching My Outdoor TV, and I was hooked last year on MLF. I think I went through like every season. And while I'm working out, I'm sitting there on the treadmill, I got it playing, or no matter what I'm doing, I'm watching MLF, which, if anybody, it is an awesome show to watch. It's where they go live tournaments in the boats with the fishermen. They have so many hours, and they don't keep the fish. They weigh them live and have iPads that the judges are in the boat with them, and they measure the bass, they pump it in, and then everybody that's competing gets updated by the guy in their boat with the iPad. Hey, so-and-so just caught one and they're now in the lead, and the time's ticking. It puts pressure. So it is a pretty cool show to watch. Anyway, I digress. I was hooked. And so Mike Iaconelli, can't say that, I'm a big fan of any fisherman, and I'm like, I put any of them on a pedestal, but for whatever reason, he had just won one of the TV shows I watched at the time we're getting ready to go. And he has his own worm, and I can't even remember the brand. I got him in my tackle box. I can't even remember the brand, but it's sponsored. So he's got his own worm and his own hook that he calls it the Mike Iaconelli setup, whatever the heck you want to call it. But it is a slightly weighted, and I don't even remember if it's like a 3 ounce. I don't even remember how heavy the hook is. But I went right out because he won, and I thought, you know what? Yeah, it looks stupid, but this dude just whooped Kevin Van Dam's butt with that, and Kevin Van Dam is a name, and so I gotta at least get some and try it. And so I went and I got some of these worms with his name on them, and really it doesn't matter, right? Like, you're using a Senko, whatever. It's a 6-inch worm, 5-inch, 4-inch, whatever. They all work, I think. And then I got the hooks. My dad actually had seen that I was getting this stuff, and he surprised me and got me the O-rings with the straw piece of metal. You put the O-rings on and slide the worm in, and it pulls the O-ring down into the middle of the worm really easy. So he
baseball bat.
Yeah. So he got me those and surprised me with them on our way to the cottage, which was cool. And so I thought, all right, I'll give this a go. And let me tell you, I don't think for largemouth bass I will ever fish anything again, other than top water early morning or just before dark, maybe for fun. But if you want to catch freaking fish, that rig you're throwing right there, and the size of the bass, like, insane. I had one I couldn't get in the boat, and it was right below me. It actually broke me off going under the boat and going the other way. And I had my rod right down to the bottom of the lake trying to pull him back, and there was no dice. I mean, he was a hog. I never even got to see him, and it was just gone. It could have been a pike for that matter too, but anyway. But it was that exact rig, and all the way that was last year was the first time I did it, and I could not believe that this worked. And I thought,
and it's easier than you think, right?
Yeah, and it's the dumb, and you just throw it in. But the way that I can,
there's a lot of people overfish it, meaning that they try to do too much.
Well, yeah, like, I mean, because I've always been the thought process that, I've always said a lazy hunter is a bad hunter. So I apply the same. A lazy fisherman's a bad, and that's just a lazy looking rig, man. Like, it's a hook with a freaking worm on it. What the heck? But holy crap, does that thing freaking work? I could not believe it. In this lake that I was in, it just destroys them. And so Dad's buddy was actually rented the same cottage as us and going up the exact, like, we were leaving the Saturday, they were coming. And so we actually left all of with instructions, and left the O-rings, left the worms, left the hooks with the instructions on how to do it and where to go on in the cottage for them. and actually hid it because we knew they were coming to clean the cottage. So we hid it. And then we texted them where the stuff was. He said, go look here. And they were crushing them as well. Like I just could not believe it. And we've been going up there for years and using spinner baits, and we nail pike and you get bass. And then I'd be throwing, some top water, which I still did, but throwing tubes and stuff, you get them, but nothing compared to this rig you're throwing. So anyway, that's the Todd story. And if anybody's listening and hasn't tried it and thought like me that this is the dumbest looking rig, get over that and do it, because holy crap, whatever it is, the way that worm does the jiggy as it's fallen, it triggers them. I mean, that thing
absolutely
barely gets to the bottom of the lake before they're pounding it. So anyway, I digress. So you pulled in a nice, what'd you say, 3.5 pounder on that?
Yeah, it was about 3.5 pounds. We actually kept that one because it was, first one there. My daughter Violet loves fish bites, meaning that you don't cook the fillets. You cut them into 1-inch cube, pretty much, batter them, put them in oil, and she absolutely loves what she calls fish bites. So they didn't have any fish up to the time that I got there. For whatever reason, they weren't keeping any or they weren't catching any. I don't know what it is, but we kept that one, and I filleted it, and we're going to save it till we got a few more to make some fish bites. So anyways, that was Friday night. I hadn't been in the cottage very long. We'd already had a real nice run in with a three and a bit smallmouth. And I thought, hey, how much better could it get? Right.
Yeah. And a spot that your son was proud to take you to boot, right?
Yeah, no, that's it. So yeah, we went back to the cottage. We had a bite to eat, and went to bed early because they were all tired. And that's the one thing that happens when you get up to the cottage. They're so tired, tuckered out from swimming and just being out in some fresh air that by 9:30 they're ready to watch movies and play cards and get out of the mosquitoes up there. And I was ready for bed too at that time. So yeah, so Saturday morning, Dave always likes to get up around 5:45, 6 o'clock, and then hit the water. And it was a beautiful morning. The fog was coming up off it looked like the mist coming on the top of the water. And I'm sitting down at the dock waiting for everybody to get up because I got up a few minutes before them, and the loons are going, and there's virtually no bugs.
How does that go? What do they? I'm not sure I've heard a loon.
They make a noise, and I'm sure that if you Google it, you could figure out what they make. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. You got it. But you can't get any better than that, my friend. When you get up first thing in the morning like that, and you're by yourself down there casting a line with the sun just coming up and the mist coming off the water, the loons going. That's your just chunk of heaven right there. So I waited. Yeah, I waited for them, and it was probably 6 o'clock we hit the water. And no, Dave, we like to go to his spots because he knows where the pike and the crappie and the pickerel and whatnot are, and he knows I like to fish for bass, large and smallmouth. And we hit one spot, and Dave, he likes to throw crankbaits, and I won't tell you which kind he likes to throw because they're kind of his deal, but I'll tell you what I threw instead. I'll give you my secrets. So
awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm messaging Dave right now as we speak.
Yeah.
You can carry on.
Well, I throw a cotton cordell big O in white, which is a crank.
I was going to say, so describe
crankbait.
It for me, because this, I'm not certain what it is.
Yeah, it's a crankbait that you can. The typical crankbait that you would see on a Bassmasters that you would throw in the early late 90s or whatever would be a flat crankbait that looks like almost like a diamond, an extended diamond, if you can picture that.
Yep.
Probably 1/4 inch to just over 1/4 inch thick. Got a rattle on the inside of it. The O-ring is right on top. It's got 2 treble hooks on the bottom. Where this style crankbait is a lipped crankbait. It's got a little lip on it.
I was going to say, so does it have a lip, or is it just going to be the straight? So my wife, if we go fishing, she's got to throw almost that exact lure you're describing without the lip. And she calls it, whatever you called it, it's the Jiggy Butt to her. Doesn't matter what color.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what size or anything. It's a crankbait that has a rattle in it, and she needs to throw. I need the Jiggy Butt. Can you make sure the Jiggy Butt is on my line?
But that's good. I'm sure next time I'm out there, I'll refer to it like that. Well.
It's the Jiggy Butt. But coming at you, folks, for 2021. We're gonna have the Redneck Country Jiggy Butt lures.
Hey, we're onto something there, maybe. But this little cotton cordell, big O, in white. It's a lipped crankbait. Got rattles on the inside of it. Two treble hooks, obviously, on the bottom. And it wobbles through the water, and the pike. I caught 3 pike on that.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't show you a picture of those ones. But I caught 3 pike on that, and a really, really nice smallie that was probably in one of the pictures that I sent you there. And I tossed that out, and I could see it because the water was shallow enough that I tossed that out to the far so I could throw it. I'm throwing a spin cast reel with I think I've got 12-pound monofilament on, which is good for the later part of the story that I'm going to tell you here. But 12-pound test monofilament, you know, it doesn't take much if you get wrapped around a log or something to snap that off if you get a big fish or something on. But I threw that out, and I could see probably as far as I could cast. As soon as it hit the water, this bass swirled at it, and it didn't take it. But I've been fishing a year or two, and I just left it.
Okay, but wait. Okay, so before you go on, when that happened, how many are in the boat with you?
People or fish?
People. Yes. Yep, people. How many people are in that boat with you?
My son and Dave. So there's 3 total.
So when that swirl, did it go something like that? Holy jeez, did you guys just see that swirl? And they're like, no.
Yeah, well, it's always that. And the other thing is, if it didn't make the boat, it didn't count. So you didn't catch a fish if it didn't get in the boat.
See, I'll be with you on that. I'm with you on that. Because if we say it didn't happen, it picks or it didn't happen.
Yeah,
so,
right.
So you better.
My dad says the same thing.
Yeah.
Where's the pictures?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I cast it out, and I saw that fish swirl at it, and he missed, and I let it sit, and I just twitched it. Like, because this bait, if you don't fish it, it floats.
I was gonna say, does it suspend or does it sink? Does it float? So it sits there. So it's sitting on top. He swirls at it, and you just kind of like flip.
I let it sit. I let it sit for maybe a 2 count, and then I just twitch it. And that fish came up and hit it like a ton of bricks, and the game was on then. And he was a tail dancing out of the water. He put on a show, I tell you. And it was good enough that when he swirled at it the second time, I had him hooked with both hooks, so there was nothing happening that fish was coming off.
That's awesome.
So he did the fight and the tail walking. And what I didn't tell you the day before is I taught my son how to be a net man, because his lacrosse playing days were not good, and his ability to run a net was not great. So, I mean, I don't get stressed out too much because I've caught a few fish, and I've missed fish for other people netting prety poorly.
Okay.
So
in that defense, and in Hunter's defense, boat flip them or you're not a man.
Yeah. Well, I had to do it. This is all about passing on life lessons and experiences. And one of the things I wanted to teach him was how to net a fish. So maybe next time we'll teach him how to boat flip. But when he was netting that fish on Friday night, he was stabbing at it like he was trying to knock it off my line. I think he was.
Maybe he was. You know, he's like, Dad ain't gonna beat me. I'll net it, Dad. Ha ha ha.
So I taught him, be gentle. You know, take your time. I'll wear it out. I'll bring it into the boat. I'll get it close. Take a scoop at it, not a stab at it. So okay, that was fine. I was able to get it in. But it was a good thing because he stabbed at that fish on Saturday morning like he'd forgotten overnight what the right thing to do was. He gets excited and seeing a nice fish, and
bass fever.
Yeah, and it was lucky that we had him close and he was hooked as good as he did, because he tried to bump that fish off. I know he did with that net, but you know what? Every fish I caught this weekend, that was bigger fish. Hunter netted for me, and he felt pretty proud being able to be part of the fishing trip like that too. So
that's awesome.
But so I got that one in the boat, and then Hunter, he was catching a few, but the morning progresses a little bit. And
wait, how big? You're just gonna end it like that? You had to net it. You didn't boat flip it. How big was this thing?
Well, they were all around the same 3. They were all over 3 pounds. Whatever we caught, was all over 3 pounds.
That's some good fish. I don't care who
it was.
That's some good fish and some good fighting. Now, was this a large or a smallie?
Good question. I think that was a large mouth. We caught quite a few largemouth. Yeah.
See, I tell you what, a 3 pound plus bass that's a good fighting fish.
Pound for pound, I think bass are the best fighting fish out there. As far as I'm concerned, I'd go bass fishing over any other species any day of the week because I love getting into the weeds. I love getting into finding structure.
Like
I love the fight.
I'm down. Yep, I'm down with you. I'm the same. And our last year when I was throwing those worms, we were catching largemouth like crazy so much. I got bored. I went looking for smallmouth, because I wanted a different fight. And I say that because I find smallmouth fight a little bit harder than the largemouth. And maybe it's because I'm catching the largemouth in a little shallower water where maybe it's a little warmer, they're a little bigger, they're a little lethargic, and the smallmouth are typically in a little bit deeper water, maybe a little bit cooler water off of a rock bed or something like that. And so they're a little more active is maybe my thought process.
Yeah,
there.
I think so too.
I wouldn't necessarily say they're any more muscle, any much different in structure. It's just probably the temperature of where they're at. They're not as lethargic. They're a little more active just based on where they like to live and hunt. So
pound for pound, smallies would give you the best fight out there too, for sure.
I believe so.
Yeah. So then, that was that. Hunter caught a couple fish too, and he was trying everything in his box. I mean, trying new ways to tie on lures. And hey, Dad, what does this do? And he tried a spinnerbait that was green and orange with a willow leaf on it, and it he caught a little bit of success on that one. And
with
I won't give you what Dave was using.
With bass or with pike? That spinnerbait.
Bass.
See,
bass.
My dad, now I bought those worms. We also, I should say, full disclosure, hit the Amazon. And typically we don't do this. We support our local store and buy them up, but we needed in the bulk because where we fish at this cottage, the pike, the year before we lost spinning baits like crazy. We had to go into town and buy more, and we went with a whack load. So this year I'm like, we're going with a whack load. I mean, I bought its own tackle box for just the spinners. And I think I bought like a 60 pack on Amazon for me and Dad to rip. And I don't think the bass have time to hit them because the pike are chewing them up. And so I found that out on those northern lakes. I found the spinners. You'll catch the odd bass, but the pike for us, holy crap, they were just pounding the spinners.
Just hammering them. Yeah, and I think he might have caught a pike on that too. But yeah, he got a couple of bass. So fast forward a little bit, we got it on to some fish, and I decided it was about the right time that we were getting into some shallower water. I'd say 3 to 5 is what I was kind of reading off the fish finder there. And when I say fish finder, I never trust those things. It's a depth marker and a bottom checker. That's all those things are. But
real men don't need electronics. Change my mind.
Yeah, I will in a minute here. Just hold on. So we get into about 3 feet of water, and it's perfect drop water fishing. And there's these little pockets. So we've got lily pads, we got fallen timber, we got weeds that are coming up, the switchgrass, and from the bottom, you can see these little pockets that are just, in my mind, prime casting spots for a topwater bait. So I take out. And again, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but for the interest of education and sharing the story, rattling chug bug. So a rattling chug bug, if anybody is out there, it's made by Storm, and if Storm wants to sponsor us, absolutely,
yeah,
because
we are not sponsored by anybody.
We are not sponsored by anybody. We've tried everything in the tackle box, from Berkeley to Czar to Storm. But anyways, this Storm rattling chug bug was minnow color, had a orange mouth on it with a silver back, white bottom, little frilly thing on the tail, like not like a hula popper style, but just a little frilly thing on the tail.
This to me is your lure. This is like a tea at 7:00 with your crumpets. Kind of, it's got frillies on it. Is it pink? Tell me it's pink, Bill. Tell me it's got some pink in it.
There's I can't. There's no pink on it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Carry on.
It's all right. So I take this rattling chug bug, and I've got 3 of them in the box, different colors, perch color, and I've wore that thing out. I've caught more bass and pike on that thing than I've caught on any other lure that I've caught fish with. Typically, I'll use a bait caster, but I only brought 1 rod because I was only fishing for a couple of days.
So you are a bait caster kind of dude?
Typically, when it comes to throwing heavier baits or a topwater, in the weeds, I'll use bait caster because it's like you're using a winch to reel them out of the.
Yeah, and see, I'll do that for like the first 8 to 10 casts, and then I'll throw it down and grab my spinning rod because I don't have time to get the bird's nest out of it. And then I'll start the next day, because at the night I'm at the campfire taking that bird's nest out. Then the next day, maybe putting new line on. I'll use it again for the first 10 casts.
Would you believe me if I told you that I practice casting in my backyard?
I totally would believe you.
I do.
And would you believe that I don't?
Yeah, I kind of do believe that. That's true.
That is so awesome. I totally believe. Okay, wait, how often do you practice casting that bad boy?
Depends if I'm actually fishing or not. I mean, there were the years that I was fishing, every night I would go out there, 5-10 casts. I'd grab a bucket, I'd grab a ring, I'd grab something, I'd practice flipping, so taking
no doubt.
Yep.
Okay, let's drill into this. Because I think we could, I think you could help some people that are looking at, because every bass fisherman watches it on TV or sees it, and they see the guy standing straight up in the boat with the bait caster in hand, and he's reefing that sucker, right? Like setting the hook like he's got Godzilla on the end. And that is going through your head every time you're fishing like a topwater lure with a bait caster. You're flipping, right? And you want to be Kevin Van Dam, and probably bad example because he doesn't use a whole lot of those, but regardless, you want to use that bait caster. And so somebody gets it, does it 10 times, 5 out of 10 times, that's a bird's nest that you got until your 5th or 6th bird's nest after 10 casts, and it's now completely screwed, and you've got to cut the line off. So what I learned when I was playing with mine, and you are probably much better at it than I am because you do practice. When you tie on a new bait, you want to set based on the weight of that bait. Every time you switch baits, you want to change the setting on that bait caster, right? And so can you give us your detail on how you do that? Your steps?
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing. I mean, if I'll throw a spinnerbait, like I won't use a worm with a bait caster because I want the finesse, I want the feel. Typically we use a stiffer rod with a bait caster because you need more backbone when you're setting the hook in a situation like that. I feel anyways. Lily pads, weeds, logs, anything that they could run to get under. You got to pull them out of there before they get there, right? That's right. And where I'm at too, when I'm using the bait caster, the rate of descent, meaning that you can set the tension on your bait and have it free fall at a slow, no rate, or a really, really fast rate. And it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm casting, I'll have less tension so that it falls slower, so that when the free flow and the momentum of that bait going through the air will cause more of a free spool effect if you got your thumb off it. Cause it's just, it's too much. It's too fast. I mean, you can control it with speed and time. And there's a lot of guys out there that don't use the variable tensions depending on whether they're flipping or casting. But for me, because I don't fish every day, I like to have a little bit more free spooling when I'm flipping, a little bit less spool, a less drop when I'm casting. Just a little bit more forgiving.
Okay,
but
so
with a baitcaster, good.
No, I was just gonna say. So let's go if you can. So you're gonna. I like saying this. It's fun. Chug bug. So you're gonna fish this. That I said it right? The chug bug.
Yeah, chug bug.
Chug bug. So
Chug bug, yeah.
you're fishing this pink frilly chug bug.
Yeah.
You set your tee down. So as you tie it on, what do? You hold that in the air and then it starts to, you let that sucker drop till it hits the water really fast, or you reel it up and then set it a little bit tighter, your tension on that bait caster, so it drops slower. What's your system for setting that?
Well, I'll tie it on. I'll reel it up right to about 4 inches from the top of the rod. And again, this is not how I was fishing last weekend because I didn't have the bait caster. But seeing as we're talking bait casters for a little bit, we got
I because I'm learning too,
no
right?
problem.
Because I got one. I got a couple, and like I said, I will fish them until they bird's nest, and I chuck them aside, and it's spinner for the rest of the day. But so I'm learning as well. I'm keyed up.
Yeah, so I'll take it and I'll reel it up to probably about 4 inches to the top of my rod. I'll hold my rod tip up to about a 45-degree angle, or maybe a little bit more than that, and I'll flip I'll tighten that tensioner knob down so it's tight enough that it won't move.
But meaning just barely won't move?
No, it won't move at all.
So you're regular tight. Okay.
Well, hold on. That's how I start, right? Yep. So then when I hit the trigger to initiate the free fall effect, then I'll back it off so that it slowly starts to fall. And when I say slowly, it might be a 3 count before it hits the ground. Gotcha. You know, at a 6.5 foot rod. And it's not an exact science. If you set it up to close to that, the only thing is it's going to do when you have it that tight, it's going to limit the distance that you can cast as well, because it acts like a brake. Because
it's tension on it, right? Yeah.
You're adding tension. The more free flowing that setup is, the farther you can cast, the more chance that it's going to
backlash,
free spool and bird backlash on you. You got to really be comfortable. But for guys that are getting into it, and I'd rather cast shorter, more accurately, and have less bird's nest. And then as you get better, you can back it off to where you feel comfortable that you can throw that bait and have it not backlash on you when you're casting.
You watch these boys on TV, right, in the MLF tournaments and stuff like that, and they're talking to the camera and letting this sucker go 30 yards. It's dropping. They just tighten it up and move it on like it's not. But they're doing it every day.
Yeah, but they're also, and I don't know if you know this or not, but they're using their thumb as a throttle.
Slowing her down.
Line,
so they take a quick look before it hits the water. Poop, stop. They're good to go, kind of thing, right? Yeah, and I typically try, like I said, I'll get 10 casts in or so, and then it's time to switch.
And then you put it away.
It just depends.
I love my big cast.
How big of a knife I need to then cut off the line.
But yeah, so that's my bait casting technique, and again, it's not an exact science. I'm sure there's people on here that'll say, "Oh, no, that's not how I do it." Well, I mean, okay, but that's kind of what works for me, and that's where I get a start from. And that's the beauty of this sport, is it doesn't have to be the perfect for every scenario. It works for you. Apply it, use it, teach it if you want to. And if somebody asks how you're doing,
hey, I appreciate it. I might actually get mine out and go out in the backyard.
Yeah, good luck. Your neighbor will have one in the window before too long.
They're used to it.
Yeah. So in my spin cast setup that I have for lightweight finesse fishing is not really the ideal setup for chug bug, topwater bait fishing and weeds, but that's what I had. That's what I used, and so the success part of the story for the weekend, that I cast this rattling chug bug out into about 3 feet of water, and first cast I fished swipe at it but nothing, and okay, well that fish is there, so I cast it right back to the same spot
and made motion at it, so you're feeling pretty good.
That's right.
right? You're like, hey,
that's right.
this might actually, because when you first tie on a top water, I don't know about you, maybe when you first tie, you're skeptical, right? Like this is the absolute best kind of bass fishing you can do, because it is the most exciting. I mean, when they hit a top water and explode, or they come up and swirl, it's not just, oh, there's a fish there. It's you got to see them take it, right? Like that's insane.
It's like dynamite exploding on top of the water.
Yeah. So when you do this, it's always like I'm 80% sure this isn't going to work, but I'm going to throw it anyway. Yeah. And then when they swirl at it, you're like, whoa, this might actually work. Wait,
but you can
leaving
tell
this
when
on.
It's going to work and not, right? I don't know if you know this or not. Maybe it's another tip that I can share. I don't know. But you can tell.
Absolutely.
I typically watch what's happening in the water, and you can see whether the minnows are coming from the bottom to the top. If you see a school of minnows that are moving, okay,
to dance and pop on the top, you know something's coming up.
There's a fish. That's right.
Yep.
And then you can hear or see fish going after bugs on top of the water, or minnows at the top, and you can see that, hey, it's time to try a topwater bait.
Yeah,
because those worms that are on the bottom.
A lot won't know, but you're fishing around lily pads. You hear this. That's fish tapping the tops of those lily pads coming up, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's what I hear as well, and I can see it. And there's certain spots that I can just say, absolutely, this is a topwater spot. And this spot on Saturday that I was fishing was for sure topwater bait heaven right there. So, yeah, I tossed this topwater, the chug bug out a second time, and I hit the same spot. And it wasn't one little tap of that bait, and the rattle jiggled, and that fish came up, and all you could see was mouth. And you could almost hear it. It rolled over. You
grabbed Hunter so he didn't get sucked in. Whoa.
Yeah, it was game on at that point in time. And this fish hit and rolled, and it came out of the water, and all I could see on the bottom was yellow belly. Like the yellow on it was pretty pronounced. And Dave looks over at the exact same time because he heard the smack on the top of the water, and he says, "Ooh, that's a big fish." And then it come out of the water a second time, and then did the little tail dance, and then right to the bottom of the lily pads it goes. And Dave's like, "That is a big fish," And I'm pretty relaxed at this point in time. I don't know why I was so relaxed for a fish that was supposed to be that big in Dave's mind.
And top water and everything. Like I'd be screaming. I tell you, 4 legs over, guys would be hopping in boats to come see the world record I'm about to land.
Yeah, this fish here was wanting to get off in the worst way, and it danced, and I said, "Hunter, you might want to grab the net." And what does it do? It wraps itself around the biggest pile of weeds you've ever seen. And I'm thinking, okay, it's not that big of a fish because it's not fighting anymore. It's just pulling dead weight. I fought it for, what felt like, minutes, but it was probably seconds that you're fighting a big fish like that. And I got it about halfway, and then it would pull line out and get about halfway. And then all of a sudden it started wrapping itself around that seagrass and the weeds and whatnot. But luckily it didn't wrap itself around lily pads where I would, how it's tough pulling a lily pad off the bottom.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So I get about, 2/3 of the way in, and it's dead weight. It feels like, because it's so compact and full of weeds that all I'm trying to do is slowly drag it in, and Hunter dips the net into it, and it fills the net. Not because the fish is that big, because of the massive pile of weeds that was surrounding this fish. So I'm thinking,
and you don't even know if it's still there. It's just you.
Well, that's it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can see the yellow belly on underneath the weeds, and I can tell I got a mass of something, including the fish on. But you're second guessing the size of it until I started stripping back the weeds. And when I started stripping back the weeds and knowing what I saw, this was, I would say, the biggest largemouth bass I've ever caught.
That's so awesome.
And it just, I stripped all the weeds back, and it kept getting bigger and bigger, and the hook was buried into it, so that both hooks were there, and there was no way fish was getting off unless it broke the line, obviously. And I was on all. I had to sit down with the fish in my hands and say, I cannot believe that just happened. So Yeah, in the boat. We got a couple pictures. I think I sent you a few pictures of the actual in the boat sitting there.
So I got.
And I don't know.
First off, I just caught a. Have you said the weight yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so
not yet.
I will wait. But I got that message, and that's all I got. And I'm messaging him, and he's not reading my messages. And I'm like, you can't just drop that on me and then not come back with it. And I'm like, I want pics. Pics didn't happen. And that's when I added you to the Facebook admin. Okay, post it. I got to see this thing.
Yeah, and I had sent that teaser to my dad and my brother as well. And I said, I just brought this fish in, and he's the biggest fish I've ever caught. And, there's a lot of people out there that catch a lot of big fish. I'm not taking anything away from any of that stuff. But for me to do that after all these years fishing, I've always wanted to catch one that broke, the 5 pound limit or the 5 pound mark. And this one was 5.4. Yeah, so
that's a big fish.
I got one of those, the Berkeley digital scales, and I put it on, and 5.4 pounds is what it was. And that fish was 22 inches long, 14.5 inch girth. And it was every bit of what I wanted it to be.
We ain't down in Florida, and the water ain't that warm like it is. I mean, it's warm, but it ain't Florida warm. And so that's like equivalent to a monster in Florida. It really is.
Yeah. That's where I was at too. And I fished, there's a lot of guys that fish these bass fishing tournaments, and they're catching 6 plus 5 at 5 is kind of what they all say. 5 bass at 5 pounds each. Well, those guys are pros doing it every week. Yeah. I haven't fished solid in years, and I'm taking nothing away from myself for the experience making, but it was one of those days that everything went right, and the fishing was there, and I caught this 5 plus pound fish. And we got a bunch of pictures of it, and there's one little story I'll tell you in a minute. But we got all these pictures of it. I put it in live well. We ended up catching 5 total fish, keepers, five keepers, and I'd say that were all 3 plus pounds, and then this one that was over 5.
Take a look at it. That's awesome fishing. I don't care who you are up here. That's unbelievable.
It was great. And you put those 3 pound fish next to the 5, and somebody on there made a comment, were those the minnows or those the, I don't remember. I didn't get that.
I know I seen it. And I'm like, man, those are massive fish.
Those the bait fish or something. But yeah, they looked really good. And Hunter wanted to fish topwater bait, but didn't have one. So Dad reaches into his box, I reach into my box and pull him out another bait. I didn't give him a chug bug. I gave him something that was close, a soft plastic hula popper looking.
We're sorry, Hunter. Thing, right? You're not ready for the chug bug.
No, you're not ready. But
it's a responsibility that Bill can't put on you yet, and you might lose one.
Yeah, he's not there yet. So this kid. I'm still in awe of what I'm doing. This fishing in the live well, and it wasn't 5 minutes later. He throws his bait. Not even 5 minutes. He throws the new bait I gave him on. Had a little trailer hook on it, and the whole works. And he throws this frog out, and kerpow! Another explosion happens in the water, and he catches a 3 plus pound largemouth bass. Right on the heels of me catching 5 plus. So he's happy, trying to keep up on top water.
See, and that's top water. Unbelievable right there, right? Yep. Like that, that's awesome.
And he's a newer fisherman, so and I'm sure if he ever heard this, he wouldn't be very happy with me saying it. But he's still got a little bit of fear about putting his finger in the bass in the mouth, and then holding on to the fish.
Yep. You gotta get the bass thumb. That's how me and my buddies, we used to judge on how good our fishing trip was at the, hey, how's your thumb looking? Oh, no, my bass thumb is better than your bass thumb.
So I got the best bass thumb for one reason only. That fish, when the topwater bait that Hunter had, that fish took it, and it was in its mouth pretty good. I only had single hook on it, but I went to help him take the hook out. Well, that fish flipped its tail, hit him in the nether region where the sun don't shine. He lets go of the fish. That hook jams itself in the top of my thumb. He says, well, and now the fish is stuck. The hook is stuck in the top of my thumb. And he's, oh, I'm sorry. I just got hit in the you-know-where. I said, I don't care about your you-know-where. Take this hook out of my thumb, So.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm bleeding all over the place. And anyways, but so we get back to the dock, and it was a great morning fishing. The fishing kind of just turned off. We decided let's go in for breakfast, and I got a bunch of pictures. And the best thing that happened was after, we got out a bunch of pictures. That 5+ pound fish, I put them right back in the water and let them go.
Oh, so awesome.
Yeah. That was,
go make some more big boys.
Together. Yeah, that's kind of what I said too. I mean, those big fish there, I think I'd like to get a replica done of it because it's the biggest fish I've ever
Are you going to do it?
To this date so far. I'm not sure. I think I am. I've got enough of the pictures and the dimensions and everything that if I wanted to, it's a couple calls. They don't do real fish anymore when they do the mounts.
They shrink and everything else too. I mean, you run the risk, right, on true taxidermy over the years, right? It's some good taxidermy won't, but some you just can't help it from time to time. So a replica is absolutely. And now, heck, go buy yourself a 3D printer, get it knocked out yourself.
Yeah, that's it. But we put them back in because we kept the smaller of the fish for fish dinner, and it was just a great all around experience, And Hunter learned how to clean his first fish, which he did well for first time. Didn't leave too much on the carcass there, and it was just an all around. And it wasn't any more than 3 days. I got up there Friday night. We left by 11 o'clock on Sunday.
Man, and see, that's just
a short turnaround trip.
That's awesome, though. That's all. Yeah. It sounds like an action-packed weekend. I wouldn't trade that for the world, man. That's like the dream weekend.
It was awesome. So I kind of took up our whole podcast here with my stories.
I love it. I love it. That is awesome. It's about time you pulled your own weight, Bill.
I know. It was tough. I didn't even know if I could with all that caffeine you had in you.
And I was thinking, crap. If Bill's talking and telling the stories, who's going to ask the questions?
Yeah.
No, that was absolutely awesome. So it was a great weekend and fishing all around. My gosh, I now want to go. I want to go so bad.
It's that time of year.
And I used to do it so much. I mean, we have some spots that soon as bass open and they're, I love an up north lake like you're describing. That is absolutely. I think Scotty has said that before on the podcast about that's what I talk about when we talk about fishing. That's what I want to do. I don't care about. I shouldn't say I don't care about, but I'm not as pumped about going on the lake for walleye, trolling for muskie. Although I've never done it, so I can't say it. But trolling for muskie or going out for lake trout. We do the trout hunting, which we've done the podcast on before in the streams for browns. But what you just described is absolutely my love. And so we used to, there's some ponds close to my place here that were stocked years ago. And so I got some buddies, Petey, Kevin, if you guys are listening, we've got stories upon stories, but we used to meet there all the time. Like, I bet you I'd get done work. And before I had kids, I'd be like to my wife, hey, I'm just going down the ponds for a couple hours. And we'd go have like little mini tournaments and we'd be pulling in some good sized hogs and we'd do it all the time. And I miss it. Yeah. And now you telling this story, oh my gosh, now it's not going to a cottage possibly this year. I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to get out. I got to go rip some lips, man. I need some bass thumb.
Yeah, and there's nothing more rewarding than coming home with a couple fish and knowing that you can feed the family. We had a good feed. We didn't have. It was way too much food. We always every year we go up there we bring too much food and they don't eat 2/3 of it. But I was able to bring back.
Candace
the
goes
fillets.
Prepared. She's married to the almost guy. You've got to.
Well, that's true.
Groceries.
Yeah, that's true. You say that, you're absolutely right. But we brought fish back, and I sent you some pictures, and I cooked them Monday night, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to share some serious amount of pictures up, but I didn't want to do it so by the time this airs, they'll be shared. But I didn't want to do it until we had this rocked down and ready to go. But that's awesome.
We had a great time. Appreciate you letting me tell the story, man. That was fun. Lots of fun.
Yeah, I bit my tongue enough. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's awesome. I'm so pumped that you got to share all that because now, dude, that was unbelievable. It was story and bait casting lessons and the whole 9 yards. We might have to drill on that some more. I got some more fishing stories too. I think maybe we'll have some podcasts coming up that we'll have to dive in a little bit more. And I mean, you are a wealth of knowledge that we seldom tap because we have guests and we get on shooting tangents and tangents and everything else. So yeah, I think we got to tap the Bill fishing expertise this summer a little bit more.
Many more podcasts ahead of us, I hope. And as long as people keep listening, we appreciate everybody's listening. That's for sure.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, this is episode 29. Absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, is it, eh?
Yeah, I could not believe it when I created the folder to save this in it. So I appreciate it. Everybody listening, we see the stats and I'm in shock and awe, absolutely shock and awe that us just sitting down around our virtual campfire, shooting stories back and forth is being listened to. But thank you, and I'm loving it. Like I said, it's nourishment for us. when we're done talking, we're in a great mood. So it's awesome. It's absolutely, and I'm getting to learn lots. Unbelievable. So yeah, thanks, Bill.
Good deal.
That was a rockin' podcast. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, guys, for listening. And that'll do it for this week, folks. For the Redneck Country Podcast, I'm Bill, the almost guy Thom.
And I'm Todd. And thanks for listening. And folks, if you want to be part of the podcast or you want to give us some feedback or really contact us about anything, feel free to email us at podcast@theredneckcountry.com. Again, that's podcast@theredneckcountry.com. Thanks for listening. Talk to you again next week.